Hi, my name's Helva and I'm from Canada. I love Jesus with all my heart. I love his word and I love it when conspiracy facts line up with Bible prophecy.
Hi, I'm Julianne from Australia. You'll hear my story, among others, on Awaken to Truth. See you there.
Hello, my name is Christine, and thank you for joining us on Awaken to Truth. I love the Lord and I love His Word. I will be sharing my stories with you as well.
Thank you for being here on Awaken to Truth. Chris is going to share her story today about where the Lord's taken her. Enjoy.
I'm now going to share my second hell experience. This one is quite interesting, and I would like both of yours take on it because it didn't look like the first experience I had. This was in a different place, just like Helva was talking about a few minutes ago. I will have her elaborate on that after I tell my story. I'm not sure where this was, but it was very interesting. So my story starts, I am driving with my son, who at the time was an infant, and I'm going from Colorado to New York City driving, which is about a 4-day trip. And I'm on my first day. I'm about halfway through Kansas City. And as I'm driving, I'm listening to a spiritual warfare tape series that I often listen to. And as I'm driving, I'm talking to the Lord, and it's getting darker and darker. And I'm like, well, it's like really dark. You can't even see the moon. And I just keep going. I'm not paying attention. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this creature, which I would at the time call a hound of hell. Today, I might call it something different. It looked exactly like a werewolf or what you would call a dogman, jump in front of my car, and I could see everything about it, except for maybe its legs, everything about it. And it was enormous, at least 8 to 9 feet tall, and just flew with speed I've never seen and went right into the cornfield across from me. So I am now terrified. And just before this happened, I was like, wow, I really need to stop for gas. I'm coming close to running out of gas. And I realized, well, I'm a couple exits away from a gas station. I'll be fine. And then this incident happened where this thing just jumps in front of me. And I am shaking. I can't stop shaking. I still have this tape running. At the time it was a tape, I don't even know if kids today know what that is anymore, but my tape was still running, and it's talking about spiritual warfare the whole time. And everything that it was saying on the tape was matching what was happening. And then they started going into talking about hell. I can't stop shaking. I have such fear. And it's like I know something's about to happen. And then all of a sudden I start seeing creatures like demons, like shadow people, and they're everywhere. And all of a sudden my car runs out of gas, and I'm sitting on the side of the road, and now there's creatures coming up to my window, coming around me. I had no idea what was happening at the time. The Lord literally had to send me an angel to tell me. I didn't realize I had transferred into another dimension, which is exactly what happened with my child and my car. This is what happened. I know this sounds, out there, but this is the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. And I've had some weird stuff happen to me. And I'm supposed to share it. So here I am. But anyhow, so I pick up my cell phone and I'm calling 911 because I'm freaking out because there's stuff, and I can't tell them I have creatures at my window and I've seen a werewolf. They're going to lock me up and take my kid. So that's not coming out of my mouth. And the weirdest thing is I'm calling 911 and it didn't feel like I was talking to 911. Anybody who's talked to somebody on the emergency line, they handle things in a certain way. But I had this very calm voice say, yes, he's on his way. As I'm frantically saying, I'm out of gas. I need help. I need help. And she's like, yes, he's on his way. I'm like, but you don't know where I am. And she's like, well, where are you? I'm on the highway. And then she says, well, he's on his way. So I'm sitting there panicking as all these things are coming to my window, like, and I'm going like this, and they are literally smacking their hands up against the window. And I'm less afraid of them because I've seen them in my life. I have spiritual sight, and I'm familiar with this, although it's terrifying me because there's so many of them. And I'm thinking, what if that werewolf looking thing comes back and I have my child in the back? What if something happens to him? It just keeps running through my mind. I still haven't grasped the concept of this very dark place I am in. And then I start panicking because he's still not there. It couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 minutes. I call back and she says, yes, ma'am. I hadn't even said anything yet. She goes, yes, ma'am. I'm on my, he's on his way. Don't worry. It's going to be okay. And it's not, it wasn't an emergency or anything. So, I mean, it was to me. I don't know. It definitely wasn't 911. It was a very strange thing. And then out of nowhere, the seconds after I had hung up this phone, comes a police car right behind me. And he gets out. What I hadn't noticed until later when I thought about it is not only was he glowing because I did notice that when I was in the car with him, he was glowing, but on the way to my door, he was glowing. And I just never put it together because my fear was so heightened. Now I felt relief and calm as soon as I came into contact with him. And I rolled down the window. He says, how can I help you? I heard you run out of gas. I said, yeah, I've run out of gas. He's like, well, let's get you both in the car and we'll go get you some gas. We get into his car. The whole inside of the car is glowing. And I'm really nervous. I'm calm, felt safe, but very nervous because I now realize that I'm sitting with an angel that looks like a policeman. And the car's glowing. There's no lights on, but the car's glowing on the inside like a bright light. And I nervously start talking about, the tape I was listening to and how I wasn't paying attention and the car ran out of gas. And he had said something, and I can't remember what, but it triggered me saying, have you ever seen that? It's a book about 20 minutes. It's Minutes in Heaven. Somebody had an experience in heaven. And I was feeling him out. And he said, yes, but have you heard about 20 minutes in hell? Looking right at me. And I looked back and then I got very, very uncomfortable and realized he was explaining to me what was happening here. And I had already had a hell experience. And I said, no. And then I started looking around, getting very, very quiet. And then he continues talking about the Lord. He continues talking about spiritual warfare, all the way to the gas and back. And then he says, God bless you and God be with you. And then he leaves me after I get in the car and I keep driving and I can't stop thinking as I'm driving about everything that just happened. And still, it's very dark. It's very weird. Oh, by the way, there's absolutely no cars on the road. None, zero, pitch dark, no moon, no nothing. And I'm still seeing those beings everywhere, but not when he was around. They went away when he came around, but as soon as he left, they came back. And so they've got these beings everywhere. And I just, but I'm driving now, so I don't see them like as concentrated around me as I did before. I just see them like that. And so I keep driving. I missed the next exit. Oh, and before he let me go, he said, and don't forget to stop and get gas. So I forgot to stop and get gas. Anyway, so I missed that exit, but I ended up stopping at the next one. I go in there again, no cars, no people. There's 2 lights. There's a gas station with a light and 1 person inside of it. And then across from there is a little tiny motel with a little bit of light and 1 person in there. The rest of the town Nothing. I just drove through it. Nothing. There's nothing. And this is a very high traffic area. You've got truckers, you've got truck stations that, the truck stops, they're not open. Just this one tiny little gas station. And everything looks weird and feels weird. The air is different. It's hard to explain. But then I walk in, I get the gas, I use my credit card, get the gas. I don't even go in. I just see a person there staring at me. And then I go into the motel and I said, I need a room. Within like 2 minutes, fastest I ever checked into a room in my life, handed him my ID, money. He hands me a key. I go around, I get in the car, and then I go drive to where my room is. When I get out of my car to get the bags and put them in the room, and the door's on the outside, and so I'm looking right at the door, and I'm about to go open up the trunk and just bring a few things in there. And all of a sudden, the ground under me starts going like this, like standing on lava, right? The earth is moving. Everything is moving. And then all of a sudden, I hear like these, it sounds like when you go to a racetrack and you hear those screeches, but like thousands of them. Then I realized, oh, wow. That's not a racetrack. Those are people screaming. Because then I start hearing each and every one of those people screaming. I could hear them individually, but all together at the same time. It sent shivers and like through my body. I just can't even explain the horror from within, knowing at that moment where I was and what I was experiencing. And it was off to the distance to the left of me. And I freak out. I grab my son. I grab my purse. I run inside. I didn't bring in anything. I was just terrified at this point. And then I sit down and I start praying. I'm like, God, what's happening here? What are you showing me here? What are you doing? I don't get it. And then I could feel the angel in the room. It lit up. I couldn't see him other than the light, and I could feel it. I put my son down to go to sleep. He was already half asleep, went right back to sleep. I spent the entire night in the Word. The Lord was speaking to me all night. There was no sleeping. This was a moment with the Lord, and He took it. He ministered to my spirit the entire night. By the time I left, I had a breakthrough in my life. But I also knew that this experience was something I was supposed to share. I still don't understand everything that happened there that day, but I do know what the Lord showed me, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes. Yes. And the screams, it's really hard to describe when you hear it.
Hurts your soul.
Yeah, it tears right into the very hits of everything you are. And you hear it as one, and then all of a sudden it becomes single people. And for me, it's like I could see lines where the different screams were going. And to hear them separate, and to hear each person, to know that their soul was being torn apart. It's really hard to describe.
It really is. It's painful to hear.
That's where people are going. The ones that don't see the truth in this. When I hear that, sadly it hasn't stopped. But when I hear that, I just grieve for mankind. And what does Yahweh do? He grieves.
He cries. It
He
breaks
weeps.
his heart. Every person that doesn't choose him, he mourns for them, he longs for them, and he cries for them. And people don't understand that. He died on the cross for every single human being. The enemy is winning so many souls to that side through such deception. And salvation is right there. It's a choice. By not choosing is a choice. So many people are like, I don't believe yet. Well, God gives everybody the evidence that they need, whatever that is for each individual person. And when you still reject him, even if you're not embracing Satan, when you're embracing the world and you don't choose the Lord, just not choosing the Lord is a choice.
The choice, exactly.
People don't understand that.
My father used to always say, you've got 30 seconds after you die to make the choice.
Right.
And I said, where'd you get that from? Show me where that is in the word. And he would just scoff. But he was a Freemason. And I loved my father very much. And now I can look at the things that he did, and he knew what he was doing. And in a weird way, I do pray he did have 30 seconds, and hopefully he made the correct choice. But I don't know. I have absolutely no understanding that I know that he won't be in heaven when I get there. And that saddens me incredibly. But I also know that when I get up there, there's going to be no tears. None of us will have any tears. And I believe that we will have the people that aren't there, the ones that we love that don't make it. They'll be erased from our thoughts. We won't even notice they're not there, because
that would be torment. Yeah,
it'd be torment, and it's not going to happen. So, yeah, that's my personal opinion. That way I can handle it. Because there's people I can't save. I mean, you can't save people. They've got to do it. We can only point them that way, and then they've got to make that choice.
And plant seeds.
But Chris,
sorry.
that's all we can do. And I mean, it's so wonderful to plant the seed, to reap to watch it grow, and then to harvest it. And in my life, I've had the beauty of being able to do that many times, do all three. Often we don't. And if you think your word of the Lord is falling on deaf ears, it isn't. You might be the person that he uses to talk to them about Jesus. Then someone else will come along and do something else. And the Holy Spirit works in people to direct them to Yeshua, to Jesus, so they can make the right choice. And we've just got to trust that they will. I've had a lady that I've been talking to recently, and she allowed me to pray with her for the first time on Wednesday. And it's going to be good. I'll see her again on Monday, and I'll ask how she was going. I prayed for healing for her. So people who's listening, please pray for the healing and the words that I prayed and the words that I speak with this woman, beautiful lady, that they find ground and they can put roots in, and that she makes the choice. And please pray that I give off a good witness. I am human. But with Chris, with yours, I found I haven't had anything as similar as that. I've seen the demons. I've seen the werewolves, which are the dog men.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
They go in and out of this dimension.
They do.
And that's weird. I'm not sure exactly if that was the same, but it sure looked like it, felt like it, everything about it, because I've seen them outside of this incident, which was also very confusing to me. But in all the research I've done, I come to the conclusion they are able to come in and out of this other dimension. Oh, Helva, what is your take on where I was? What part of hell? What was going on there? Please.
I don't have any take on it. I really don't know. I know there's different levels of hell. You've got, Abraham's bosom hell. Lake of fire is separate from hell because in Revelation it says death and hell was cast into the lake of fire, so they have to be separate places. Then you got another place, Tartarus, where I believe some of the the watcher angels are bound up or were bound up there. Not really prepared to go into depth to talk about this. I'm just off the top of my head.
That's another video. We're doing another video on
But,
that. FYI.
Stay tuned, people.
well, like you said, you might have passed through into another dimension. That's a very freaky story. I don't know how else to describe it. I mean,
I
but
tend to wonder, and what do you think of this? I tend to wonder if what I was seeing is when I went into another dimension where Earth became like hell, where
where darkness was taken over and gone full
and
force.
the creatures
Supreme, yeah.
were on there, but this was like in another time, in another, because God's going to do, and there was clearly destruction, and I believe what was under my feet down below was lava.
Yes.
And it was quite hot, and I don't know, but it was hell on earth if it was earth, but I don't think it was, not any earth I know.
Well,
No, I think you went into a different dimension.
I did too.
the Bible does describe hell or the lake of fire as a place of weeping and gnashing of teeth, and in several places. So if you just Google weeping and gnashing of teeth, you'll find a few verses on that. But I don't dwell too much on hell or the descriptions of hell in the Bible. But the thing that always comes to my mind is Matthew 25, verse 41, where, it's judgment day, and Jesus will be saying, or God, the judge, will say to those on the left, "Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels." Eternal fire was not prepared for us. Heaven was prepared for us. God created us for fellowship with him. He created us to spend eternity with him. He wants us with him. He wants us to enjoy him enjoy us, just a loving relationship. That's what God wants for his creation, to be with him for eternity, and just in a place of love where there's love everywhere. Hell, eternal fire, was prepared for the devil. That's who it was prepared for, the devil and his angels. And the devil doesn't want to be there alone, doesn't want us to spend eternity with God the way God created us for. He of his own free will, left heaven, decided to rebel. And he's not happy that we're destined for eternity with God in heaven. So he's going to do everything in his power to make sure you spend eternity in hell with him. And it's just as simple as rejecting that, accepting Christ, and choosing God. Jesus said, "I set before you today life and death. Choose life."
Amen.
Life means life abundant on earth, because God is with you, giving you joy and peace unspeakable, and eternity with God forever and ever, dwelling in his presence. And it's not going to be little cherubs playing harps on clouds. Heaven will not be born.
Not at all.
If this is only a shadow of heaven, and we can find so much joy and beauty and excitement on earth, and this is a shadow, can you imagine how much joy heaven will be?
I can.
And how beautiful it'll be.
Well, not full.
I can hardly wait.
I can't wait. Well, I can't wait till the Lord sets everything right. And I can't wait till that starts.
Elva, when you were talking about the gnashing of teeth, it reminded me of a comedian show that I was watching a while ago. And the chap was preaching. He was in a church and he had the white garb on. I assume it was a Catholic church. And he said, there will be crying and gnashing of teeth. And an old lady down the front said, but I don't have any teeth. And he said, teeth will be provided. And every time someone says, all I could think of is that.
Teeth
But Chris, with it,
provided.
it was Dave Allen.
She's always coming with the jokes.
When you were saying about going into the dimensions, Chris, my daughter and her friends portal hop.
Oh, they're
They
stupid.
actually,
Sorry.
yes, exactly. And I keep saying to them,
Oh.
one time you will not get out. One
Well,
time you will not get out.
something's going to possess their body and not
Yep.
let them back in.
And but they
Not wise.
actively, I want to go out and put holes in their tires so they can't drive. They drive to certain areas because it's not only believers who can see in the spirit. It's not. It's a false giftings,
Sure.
and they drive to certain places and they chant, which opens portals, and they drive into them, and they play. And I know this is truth because I see them as well. I see portals, and I actually will go and like slink up on the side of a wall of a storefront, a shop front to avoid one. And but these kids, I know they go, well, they're not kids, they're adults, and they don't behave like them. And they go in, and it happens that my daughter left my house with her friends, and she said, oh, we're going portal hopping. And so as soon as they left, I went into warfare. But she called me 30 minutes later, or 35 minutes later, I know the exact time, and she was in a town that was 4.5 hours drive away from us. And there was nothing that was open. They run out of fuel like you had, yet they had a full tank when they left. So in 30 minutes, she had time travelled, and nothing was open except for one motel. And I said to her, prove to me you're in that town. And she went, they walked around to a park, there was a sign, and she took a photo of her standing under it, and it was nighttime, and I got the photograph on my phone and had the time on it. She was definitely there. And she has eased up a bit because they went into a portal, and when they tried to get back, there was a tree right in the middle of the car. They couldn't get in. They had to drive back around wherever they were and come back. They tried 4 times to get back through. Finally, there was no tree there, and they got through. And I just said, you will get stuck in there one day, and I can't get you out. I can't help you. And I don't know if she's doing it anymore. I don't know. I just don't know if maybe she's just not telling me she's doing it anymore. I pray she's not doing it anymore. But yeah, they would deliberately do that. And so would their friends. And their friend, his mother, he's a witches, so it doesn't surprise me. But I found one time I didn't have any petrol. I ran out of petrol, or gas, as you call it. And I knew that I only had $20 in my wallet. And I knew that that would not put enough fuel in my car to get me back home. And I thought, I've got to put it in and I'll drive as far as I can. Luckily, I was alone and I was able to, I thought I'll pull off on the side of the road and I'll sleep in the car until someone comes past and hopefully help me. And I went in and I put $20 of fuel in my car, and I opened my wallet to pay, and there was $40 in there, and I had gone through that wallet. I'd pulled it apart, I'd emptied it. There was only $20 in there. So miraculously, the $20 note had doubled. So the Lord paid for my fuel.
That's the Lord for you.
He's very, very good.
Yeah, he is. That's awesome.
So we've run out of time again today, but I hope you are finding this informative and enjoy listening to it. And we will have more. Stay tuned and join us again next week.
God bless you guys.